My children deserve only elite and expensive food, my own sister told me. Even now, when I think back to those days, I still get chills. A lot of time has passed, but I just can't forget. Back then, it felt like she, my own sister, took off a mask. In front of me stood a stranger, cold and heartless. Her gaze gave me the shivers. Was this really the person I had trusted and loved so deeply? That day, I was in a big hurry to get to work, and Chris was still nowhere to be found. It annoyed me a little, but there was no point in complaining. At that time, I thought Chris was my lifesaver. Without her, I really wouldn't have been able to manage anything. My husband had left for a business trip to the north about a month before, and there was no telling when he'd be back. Honestly, our relationship had been strained lately anyway. My 4-year-old daughter, Elisa, was constantly getting sick with colds, so I had to stop taking her to daycare. The teachers there always gave me these disapproving looks and said I shouldn't bring a sick child. At work, I had just been promoted to lead manager, but the small salary increase didn't match the mountain of new responsibilities. I had to stay late every evening sorting out paperwork, and there was no one to watch Elisa. My younger sister, who had recently separated from her husband and was raising 2 kids on her own, understood the struggles of motherhood. She happily agreed to help, especially since she didn't have a steady job at the time. I gave her a little money and bought groceries for all of us. Her kids were always thrilled to play with my Elisa. They were around the same age. I thought it was a pretty good setup, and I was truly grateful to my sister. Of course, everything that happened later completely changed how I saw the world. Finally, the doorbell rang. "Where have you been?" "I've been needing to go for ages. My boss is going to eat me alive," I snapped at Chris. "Everything's fine. I'm sorry. The bus was stuck in traffic forever. You know what it's like at this hour," she replied. She never openly argued with me, never raised her voice, never complained about anything. I really appreciated that about her. Her kids ran straight to the room and started playing with Elisa's building blocks. "Thank you. You're a lifesaver. Sorry if I was a bit rude. I'm just super stressed these days. So much is piling up," I said, hugging her and explaining where the food was. "Run along, business lady. Everything's gonna be fine," she joked. That day at work was hell. My feet felt like they had knives in them, and I had to wear heels because of the dress code. I wasn't walking. I was dragging myself home. The minibus was packed like sardines, and I got crushed in the crowd. When I finally got home, I saw Chris's kids jumping around happily, and Elisa was playing too. But something was off. She looked gloomy and quiet. "She's been like that all day," my sister said, shrugging. I asked if her head hurt or if she missed you, but she just said she was fine. Maybe she's upset you're staying so late at work all the time, or that her dad hasn't come back yet, she added thoughtfully. "Yeah, probably," I sighed. "It's hard for a kid to grow up without much attention. I'll try to spend the whole weekend with her," I promised. I went to Elisa, kissed her, and gave her a new toy. But later, after Chris had left, and Elisa and I had finished watching her favorite cartoon, she tiptoed over to me and whispered, like someone might hear us, "Mommy, can I tell you something? I feel shy, and I don't want to hurt Aunt Chris. But I didn't like what happened today. Promise you won't be mad at her?" I was stunned. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Chris had never lied to me, or so I thought. She always helped, always put me first. And now my child was complaining about her? Maybe Elisa just missed me and her dad and was making something up, trying to get me to stay home. But I decided to keep listening. Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. "Tell me," I said once I'd gathered myself. "I promise I won't be mad at Chris, and I'll make sure everything's okay again. When you leave, Mommy, and you leave all that yummy stuff, cakes, candy, my favorite cornflakes with milk, and my fruits, Aunt Chris doesn't give them to me. She gives them all to Iron and David. She only lets me eat semolina porridge and plain tea. It's yucky, and I don't like it. Aunt asked me not to tell you, Alyssa whispered. She said I shouldn't tell Mommy or she'd get upset. But I don't want to eat semolina porridge and drink unsweetened tea anymore. Can I go back to kindergarten instead? At least there, they give us pastries and sometimes apples. Her words made my knees go weak. I couldn't believe it, but I also couldn't convince myself that my 4-year-old daughter was lying. I never taught her to lie or manipulate, and a child this age simply isn't capable of fabricating such an elaborate story to trick her own mother. Still, I had never seen anything suspicious from my sister Chris before. She was always gentle, humble, and obedient. Yes, her personal life hadn't worked out, but that didn't make her a bad person, let alone someone who would treat her own niece like this. Until now, I had never heard or noticed anything like this, and Alyssa had been staying with her for a long time. What could have changed? I decided not to say anything to Chris just yet and see how things unfolded. I didn't want to argue with her, or more importantly, with my only child. The next time Chris came over with her kids to look after Alyssa, she herself brought up a strange conversation. You know, Vicky, she said slowly, clearly struggling to say something unpleasant. I've been meaning to talk to you about this for a while, but just didn't know how. Yes, we're sisters, and you don't have to pay me, but you can see I'm out of work, and my husband left. He doesn't even pay child support. I can't really support my kids on what you're giving me, and I can't find a job because I have to look after Alyssa. Could you maybe pay me more and buy some different groceries? My kids are tired of yogurt, fruit, soup, and cookies. They want the kind of food they had recently at a cafe. David really liked that shrimp salad. Could you maybe make something like that? Or at least give me more money so I can buy it myself? Chris, I replied, trying to choose my words carefully to avoid a fight. You know I was just promoted. Igor hasn't sent any money yet, and I'm supporting Alyssa on my own. I'm already paying you what I can and buying healthy food for the kids. It's not necessary to eat gourmet meals. I'm sorry, but I can't fully provide for you too. My children deserve only elite, high-quality food, my sister said in a proud, cold tone. I could have sunk into the floor. I didn't even know how to respond. She had changed so much. She wasn't the same person anymore, more bitter, more hardened. I'd never seen her like this before. And what was my fault in all of this? I didn't cause her problems. I wasn't the reason she was left alone with 2 children. I wasn't the one responsible for her not being able to find a job, certainly not me or my child. I remembered Alyssa's words and suddenly wanted to tell Chris the whole truth straight to her face, but I kept calm. As a reasonable adult, I chose to stay silent and decided to watch more closely, to catch her red-handed if needed. Now I understood. My daughter had been telling the truth. I held back my emotions and replied as calmly and dryly as I could. Okay, I hear you. I'll think about how I can increase your pay and try to get some different groceries, I said, pretending everything was normal. Really? You're not mad at me? She smiled, reaching out to hug me. But I had already seen through her. The warmth was fake, and I gently stepped back. I understand you're going through a tough time. I'm not upset, but I really need to get to work now, I said, and closed the door behind me. That day at work, I was due for a difficult meeting with the director. I had to come up with an urgent excuse to leave early, so I pretended I had an emergency doctor's appointment. I knew the team would give me side eyes for leaving, and I even risked losing my new position. But at that moment, nothing mattered more than my child. I couldn't sleep peacefully unless I found out whether Alyssa was telling the truth. I managed to convince my boss to let me leave an hour and a half early. There was no interlock on our apartment door, so I could slip in quietly and see what was going on without me. As I walked up the stairs, my legs felt like jelly, not just from fatigue. I had grown used to the heavy load of work, the packed buses, the constant stress. But this was different. I was scared. I didn't want Alyssa's words to be true. I wished with all my heart that it was just a child's fantasy, because the last thing I ever wanted was to learn something like this about my own sister. We had been so close since childhood. After our parents passed, she was the only family I had left. Could it really be that even my relationship with her is falling apart? I had no one else to turn to, and after something like this, it's hard to keep believing in people. Who will I be able to trust or be friends with if even someone so close by blood can act like this? Calm down, Vicky. Breathe deeply, I whispered to myself, remembering how my therapist once told me to handle situations like this. I took a few deep breaths and wished myself luck, then pulled the key from my pocket. That moment felt like an eternity. I slid the key into the lock, thankfully, it was nearly silent, and tiptoed inside the apartment. No one noticed I was home. Chris's kids were laughing and chatting loudly with their mom. I slipped off my shoes and quietly walked toward the kitchen. The door was slightly open, and what I saw through the gap flipped my whole world upside down. David and Irene were happily eating fruits and pastries, chatting excitedly. Chris was sitting next to them, devouring ice cream straight from a bowl like a child. And then there was my daughter. Elisa sat quietly at the edge of the table, holding a bowl of semolina porridge, reluctantly spooning it into her mouth. Next to her was a mug of unsweetened tea. She looked so upset. No one was talking to her. Chris's family was clearly keeping their distance. At that point, all the therapist's advice was useless. My emotions overwhelmed me. I stormed into the kitchen. I'll admit, I completely lost my temper. I was so angry I knocked over Chris's bowl of ice cream right onto her. "What the hell is wrong with you? Have you no shame?" I shouted. I never imagined my own sister could do something like this. Elisa had told me things, but I didn't believe her. I thought it was just childish imagination. I thought she just missed me and made up stories so I'd spend more time with her. But now I understood. My child was far wiser than my 26-year-old sister. What did I ever do to you? What did I do wrong? Is it my fault your life turned out like this? Am I supposed to suffer for his mistakes? I continued. Chris, wiping the melted ice cream from her shirt, didn't hesitate to bite back. "You know what, Vicky?" she hissed. "I'm tired of pretending to be the quiet, modest one. You always got the best of everything, and I had to settle for scraps. Remember our childhood? Mom always bought you the prettiest dresses, and I wore your hand-me-downs. Dad played with you, took you to the amusement park. He barely noticed me. They paid for your dream college, and I had to settle for a vocational school. But you didn't pass the exams for the teacher's college," I mumbled, still in shock, barely able to speak. Was this how she had felt all these years? Resentful, jealous, bitter? And when you married Igor, he turned out to be a decent man. Even when you fought, at least he didn't leave. Mine ran off with another woman and left me with the kids and no money. Why is it that everything works out for you and nothing for me? Why do you have a job, a promotion, and I'm left as your underpaid nanny? "You should go," I told her at last. "I'm sorry I couldn't fix your life, but we won't be seeing each other again." Chris gathered her kids and left. She called me 5 times afterward, asking for forgiveness. But I hired a nanny. I'd rather pay more and cut back on my own needs than deal with dishonest people. Now, I try not to talk to my sister. Maybe that's harsh, but I don't feel a single ounce of guilt.